Benjies, welcome to the BingeWorthy podcast, part of the Geekish Network. My name is Johnny Randolph, or you can just call me Randy, and I'm going to introduce to my co-host. My first co-host is Miss Courtney Scott Wright. Courtney, say what's up to the people, man.
Hello.
Yo, my next co-host is Rakah. Son, tell them who you are.
Yes. Hello, Governor.
Our next co-host is Miss Catherine. Catherine, say what's up to the people, man.
Howdy.
And coming in and clean up, Chuck. Let them know who you are.
What it do, people? We're back again.
And we are the BingeWorthy podcast. The purpose of the BingeWorthy podcast is that we will binge watch a complete television series to let you know if you should. Tonight, we are watching Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender. It premiered on Netflix, and it has 8 episodes. What we do here at the BingeWorthy podcast is that we will rate the series based on our unique BingeWorthy scale. Then we engage in conversation. And at the conclusion of the show, we will re-rate it. So I'm going to turn to my technical director, Rodney. How did the binge-worthy crew rate Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender? All right, so what we got here? We got binge-worthy. We got mini meal, full meal, binge-worthy, and a full meal. So some diversity here. So what's that? 21 divided by what? 5. So we got a 4.2 that gives us a solid full meal for Avatar: The Last Airbender. All right, so let's talk about this show. So, just a little context backward. The animated series that came out on Nickelodeon is legendary. It's viewed as one of the greatest animated series ever. So it's got a lot of hype to live up to. So I'm going to start with Courtney and Kai and Chuck and just start off just for a general conversation. Do you think this live action version is something that fans of the original series would enjoy? So we'll start with you, Courtney. What do you think this is something that fans of the original series would enjoy?
Mm, yes and no. I think that there's a lot of good in it, but I think that there are certain characters that, for me, were innately missing something. Um, Mainly like Azula was completely wrong. She was I can't even tell you how she's one of the greatest villains of all time. And I just don't feel like this actress was directed in that way to bring about Azula. And I feel like Zuko, though he was a solid actor, it was a different version of Zuko. And I did not enjoy it as coming off of how much I love the character of Zuko and where he goes in the animated series. Like the main three characters, like Aang, Katara, and Sokka. I gotta say, Sokka's probably the most spot on, and he wasn't even really like the best actor, but he was the closest to the character of Sokka, like um he was enough to give me what I was looking for. He wasn't near perfect, but he was enough. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. What about you guys with Kai and Chuck? You think this is something that fans of the show would
Um,
enjoy?
I like to say, I think fans of the show would be into this. However, purists of the animated series will not, because the demographic for this, who they were targeting to watch this show, is different. And so the tone of the show is slightly different. They had all the same scenes, but the tone was definitely more mature. I mean, they started out with genocide versus Sokka and Katara running up on Aang, right, and as he's in an iceberg, and him being playful for the first couple of episodes, knowing the looming threat with the Fire Nation was behind them. So I thought they did a different tone, but I think purist of it that wanted that childish demeanor in the show would be upset about this. They would want that, where people that are like, okay, they're not giving me a complete rehash of the original show. They're giving me something a little different to be satisfied with it.
All right. What about you, Rakai? Fans would enjoy this? Fans of the original series?
The hardest thing about answering that question is, hell, I'm a fan of the original series, and I enjoyed this immensely. Um, I think that everything that Chuck just said was point on. Um, I can even see Courtney's point of view. I absolutely love Azula's silly, crazy ass. She is crazy and batshit. Uh, And this actress, we didn't really get that. Now, to be fair, in the animated series, you're not even introduced to Azula for real to book two. So to introduce her this early was something new. Not wasn't terrible. Um, and I think aesthetically, she doesn't really look like Azula. Um, she did give crazy. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a hard emotion to put on screen. She gave crazy. I don't know if she'll be able to really be Azula, but so far she was okay. I think casting wise, they absolutely killed it with Aang, Katara, and Sokka. Uh, Uncle Iroh is my favorite character in the entire series. Um, and I love Paul Sun Hyung Lee so much, from Kim's Convenience to The Mandalorian. Like, I like that dude. And he
Mhm.
played Iroh. Iroh in the animated series has a very distinctive voice. He doesn't have that voice, but the way that he played Iroh, like he was Iroh.
Mhm.
I even like Dallas Liu, who played Zuko. He didn't have Dante Bosco's voice. Like, Dante Bosco's voice, so distinctive as well. Um, but there is a huge difference in being a voice actor and being a live action actor. There's a huge difference in being a live action actor and what they can do in an animated series, because you can over exaggerate expressions and things like that to even play it up, which they did a lot, almost to a Looney Tunes level with Aang a lot of times when he was super super playful. Um, I do have to agree though that purists, and I think you could tell from the interwebs the amount of hate that this got, that a lot of people are looking for something to hate. This had a completely different tone. It was supposed to have a different tone. That the TV show came out 20 years ago, and it was made for little kids, Nickelodeon. You know, I mean, I remember watching it when my kids were, little, and that wasn't even 20 years ago, but I remember watching it with my kids when they were little, and they loved it. And me and my daughter have had a couple deep discussions about this. So yeah, I think that fans, if they're real fans of the property, they'll love it. Purists, probably not. But then again, you look at the purists for, I don't give a damn what property is. They pretty much hate everything. Right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Were you gonna say something, Catherine?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing. I am coming from the perspective of someone who, even though I've only watched the first three episodes, who hasn't really watched the show, but I would agree that purists would probably not like anything that's different from the original source material. But yeah, that's all.
Fandom is always interesting. All right, let's talk about it. So, from the visual effects perspective, Catherine, give me your thoughts on how you felt the visual effects did in creating this world.
It's definitely very uh colorful and like Netflix kind of, not like Hollywood big blockbuster or Game of Thrones style like budget, but it definitely felt budgeted.
Like
Especially
low
when
budgeted or like big budgeted?
not the lowest budget, but not the highest budget, somewhere in the medium tier, but it's also very stylized. Like the characters have very colorful clothing to match like more of the animated show. So there's no wear and tear from like water or dirt or anything like that. But there's some weird when you're introduced to Aang and he's flying around, you can tell it's like a ragdoll kind of puppet CG person, or when they're jumping onto Appa, the little bison thing here, you can tell like it's very puppety and it's not, they're CG doubles. Um, but I enjoyed definitely some like the sequences where they're bending, and like fighting and stuff. That was cool. The animals have like, I think the design of the animals look pretty, their silhouettes match kind of the animated show, and they kind of have the essence of it, but it's not like the highest budget it's not like Star Wars budget to like having puppets or having I think if they would benefit if they used a mixture of puppets and CGI versus pure CGI, because you run into the issue of kind of ragdolling it, and you have only a finite time to make this animated show. There's also a lot of like green screen effect where you see this like very populated city in background, but it's obviously like this is not a real city. There's this one set piece, but everything is not real. And I'm not sure if they did that for a style. I mean, there's definitely a budget, but I also don't know if there's a stylistic reason for doing that to try and make it feel animated in a way. So that's how. Yeah.
All right. Courtney, what about you? The bending. How did the bending, a live action version of the bending look to you?
For me, I thought the bending was great. I thought that I really loved the earth bending. Um, like in terms of like I just started rewatching after I finished the live action series, I started rewatching the animated series again.
Mhm.
And the pilot episode actually does briefly kind of discuss the the war that it sets up the war that the Fire Nation began. So that intro for worked for me. And like initially when I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, this is they're giving us like intense backstory." Like we didn't, like they had this little earthbender who was like a spy and tried to get some information out like that. Obviously wasn't in the animated series, but they did discuss it in a brief portion before we got to like what Chuck mentioned about like Sang Aang and Katara. And that scene with the earthbender and the battle, I thought that was so good that I was really impressed by that. Same with Zuko, because Zuko was always bending with his feet and like shooting fire from his, not just from his hands but from his feet. And I really like the sequences that they created using that. And same with Katara, like the water, it didn't even though you knew it was CGI, like it didn't look to me like super false. Like I was really invested in what they created. So seeing as how bending is a huge part of this series, I mean it's literally almost another character. I thought that it was a solid production value for me. Like I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it immensely too. So, Chuck, what about you? As far as the costuming, and wardrobe, how did you think this contribute to the overall quality of the series? Did it
I don't.
mimic? Did it nail the animated version or not? What were your thoughts?
I was thinking about that after we watched it, and I was thinking about how the costuming looked. Like the makeup, I think was remarkable. The makeup they did a really good job. And they showed a really good job of after fights. There was dirt and there's scars, but the costumes weren't that dirty.
Yeah.
They were pristine costumes, and that's what took me out of it. Made it feel like a cartoon. And that may be a stylized choice, where the flesh is damaged, but we want their costumes to look good no matter what.
Mhm.
And I think the costumes did look good. I would rather for them to get tattered and torn, like how their skin did as they fought. Like Zuko was a prime example of that when he was running from the Fire Nation's prison and he got hit the head with the arrow. And that when we saw him again, his costume that he had was like pristine. Only thing that was broken was the glass. We saw him fall into the dirt when Iroh came and got him. He was totally fine. His costume was clean when him and Aang were talking in the little barn area. You know, so I thought the costuming looked good. It just didn't allow it to take damage, and it needed damage on the costumes.
Especially if it's about war and the
Yeah,
action.
yeah,
Yeah.
Fights.
Also, if they're going in a darker tone, then they definitely need damage.
yeah, yeah.
I can see that.
I will say though, and I know that like the animated series is animated, um, but and maybe I as a writer am writing in something that is not in evidence, but I would imagine if it's the Fire Nation, like they would find a way for clothing to not be to
Flammable.
be flame resistant. Yeah, to not be flammable and to be like not easily damaged and carry certain things. Like I do feel like I saw some dirt on his clothing. Maybe not a whole lot. Not like the chick in, I always bring this up, Transformers, when Rosie Huntington, whatever, was sliding down the skyscraper in a white suit, and Michael Bay had her land perfectly without one speck of dirt. Like, I have never been able to move forward from that. So that didn't, I didn't notice it.
But
In the chat, Mark said the Fire Nation's fabric is top notch.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
Corey out here.
They're all fabric benders.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I do agree. Like they would be fire. They would be fire resistant. But if Katara freezes you in ice and you get unfrozen, I expect your clothes to be somewhat wet.
Yeah, or dirt, or
Well,
if they
that's
fall
a
dirt.
good point.
Yeah, it'd be dirty. I
Yeah.
do accept when you slide down the hill, your clothes will be dirty. When Aang hops off the broom off his glider, and he gets hit by the Fire Nation, I expect him to be dirty
Yeah.
because he's not Fire Nation. He's Air Nation.
When I was watching the first, I think it was the first and second episode where Aang is like using his airbending tactics to kind of glide and fly and stuff, I was kind of confused at one of the sequences where he was falling, but couldn't really airbend his way up and just fell.
Yeah.
That was confusing for me, and I'm not sure if there's a reason in the show that it goes into detail about how he can use his powers to glide.
Well, I mean, he can use air to
He's gliding the fabric of the like glider.
But even
He's using the airbending, and
No.
you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you. You're
Okay.
100% correct in terms of like in the animated series when he would fall from his glider, he would use like bursts of air to like land safely. So I too remember that moment that you're talking about, and I was like, why you fall? Unless he was just trying to entertain the little kids of the water tribe, which I think that's how I wrote it into my head.
Well, like even in the first episode, he's introduced. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna fly and glide without the glider and everything. I'm
Yeah,
doing this."
in the very beginning, when he's at the Southern Air Temple, he's sitting on top of one of the towers, and Gyatso calls him down, and he jumps down from there, and it really, instead of falling gracefully, it almost looked like he's flying.
Flying.
Or it looks kind of like he's flying. It's like, wait a minute. No, that's a Zahir moment. What the hell is going on? And that was a problem. Now, I heard someone explain it is that it wasn't that he was flying. I was like, well, the way y'all did the CG, it looked like he was flying. And that's damn near like, and I know, we're not even really purists, but fans are like, wait, what the hell is Aang doing flying? You didn't took people out in the first 3 minutes. Like, what the shit?
Yeah,
Aang is flying now?
it was a cool showy moment, but it was like, all right, how if he's doing this, how can he fall from this?
He's going around the pole, flipping around the pole, like woo.
Yeah, and someone had said that it was like little air bursts, and he was showing off, and it wasn't that he was flying, he was falling gracefully or whatever, catching little pockets of air. I was like, well, y'all CG people put that look like he's flying, and that's a problem. And and at least they didn't continue with that, but it's a mess up right from the jump. And that almost, I don't know how some people are. You see that one little thing, like, you know what? I can't get past that. I'm not watching the rest of the shit. Like
there were a couple things for me that are the reason that I didn't give it a binge worthy that I just couldn't get past. But yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about it. So Rakai,
sir,
we said that it started off a little darker, and it is dark. I think it is dark. I think this is a much darker show. It ends dark. Was this a good decision?
Yes.
Okay. Why so? Why so, sir?
Because if you're making a show for Nickelodeon that comes on daytimes, in the 3:30, 4 o'clock block for children when they get home from school, then the tone of the animated series is right on point. You're making it for kids. This is a Netflix show And really, if you're looking at my target audience was a teenager, a kid 20 years ago, well, now they're a different audience. I mean, I can sit down and watch a cartoon from my childhood and have that piece of nostalgia and be like, okay, I remember when I used to love this. I'm not gonna sit down and watch all that shit. I got bills and I got other shit to do. I have a finite amount of time to spend doing this. And I can't be a little kid no more or whatever. Shit, what do I look like? Snoop Dogg? I'm high all day, eating cereal, laughing at little kid shit. I ain't got time for that.
Oh man, that's
So
fantastic.
if you give me something that is on par with, and especially like you keep the spirit of, and you pay respect, you pay homage to that series, I am all for giving me a little bit more grown understanding. I told a buddy of mine, I was like, when I was teaching, I taught social studies, one of the subjects I taught. And I remember I was teaching 8th grade US history. And every year, October, they would get around to Columbus Day. And I'd be like, oof. So on Indigenous Peoples Day, let me tell you the real story of this dude named Columbus. And when I got through, them kids' mouths was hit the floor, and they be like, what the shit? They said, ain't nobody ever told me that. And that's because you learned all of this in 4th or 5th grade. And in elementary school, you weren't ready for the real story. This had to be scaffolded. It had to be leveled up. And you can't tell some 4th grade kids about genocide and him and his crew of, they cleared out all the jails and prisons and gave him a crew, and they sat around and they raping the shit out of everybody and killing everybody with the smallpox and diseases. You can't tell little kids that. But as they get older, then they can grow into a different understanding. And I think that for me, this was that. That scene with King Boomy and Aang, he broke it down to him and explained to, do you know the kind of choices I've had to make over the last 100 years? So what happened to you? You were the symbol of hope. You want to play games? Ain't nobody playing games. That shit, yes, I like the tone. I like the direction it is going. So I'm for it. I don't know about the other fans and the purists and shit, but okay.
So, Courtney, you're about to say, go ahead.
Oh, well, though I do agree with the dialogue that Boomy had, I didn't think the look of Boomy was
Didn't
quite
match
right.
it at all, right?
No,
He wasn't
it was
muscle bound and
100%
intimidating.
off.
Yeah, I
It
was
was
expecting.
like,
Look.
I was like, hold on, Boomy.
Hey.
They ran out of
he
CG
was
budget.
so like, and he was dressed like a king. When he first encountered Boomy, wasn't he dressed like a pauper? Like, wasn't it like confusing? Like he had on those same style pants, but I remember them being like brown and like basic. Like I don't remember him being that daggone elegant.
Regal.
I know when he took his little coat off, I was like, oh shit, he get ready to be ripped.
Yeah,
he was basic as hell.
I was like, did he lost his gym membership? What the hell?
Yeah, like that's. I was just like, I can't. That was part of the reason that I was like, you got it wrong. I can't do that. Just like I texted Rakai, if Ty Lee doesn't make one motherfucking cartwheel, then I'm off the train. She can't get a fucking binge worthy. I need Ty Lee to flip once. This broad just stood there.
They're not even introduced into the second season.
Well, they're not introduced to the second season.
They're not even introduced.
I don't care. She still should have flipped in. If you want to introduce her now, I need her to flip. You had her in some gymnastic classes, then you shouldn't have brought her ass in.
So
I'm sorry.
I think Courtney, they just brought them in for people to see them to prepare.
Listen, if you're gonna bring her in,
I don't care.
I need her to flip in. She could have cartwheeled in. Okay, I'm not asking for a double whip back and a somersault.
But whenever we saw her, she was just standing there in front of the Fire Lord. So that's all they did.
To me, that's why I didn't have a problem with Azula, because she's not even introduced.
I didn't have a problem with
it. Yeah.
I said
for them to be who they
go
are.
ape shit in season 2. They're setting up season 2 to be a Zulu season.
Yeah.
No, you've
So
already established. Listen, we're talking about acting. If I can pop in here, like in terms of the animated series, Azula, like it's not just that her crazy is fun. Her crazy is fun. I agree with you, Rikai. But Azula is a sociopath from the minute you see her, and that's what that she's like Hannibal Lecter crazy. But
I didn't think
she's
she was Hannibal
so
Lecter
she
crazy when I
is
first met her.
engaging. She is a
I didn't think she
sociopath.
was. I
She
think
is
she's
an
a sociopath,
absolute
but she
sociopath.
loses it more as the season goes on.
She does,
I
but like
thought when we
in the
first get her,
beginning,
she's
sorry,
this
Randy.
elite level of fighting. That's what
Yeah,
I
she's
thought.
elite level of fighter. Yeah, I
I
just thought
thought
she
they
was better than her
captured.
brother,
You know the difference.
and
The
she's
difference
smarter than
here.
her brother.
The
She is
difference
smarter
here.
than her, but she's
Yeah,
more ruthless
but
and cunning.
I think we
I
get
think
that later on in season 2
If you're
and going to
going to
season 3.
introduce her, I want you to introduce her. Yeah, I agree 100%. She is not aesthetically speaking like what I envision Azula and what she was like presented in the animated series. I'm okay with that. If you bring me the actress that has the heart and spirit of Azula, and I haven't seen that yet.
They
I
probably
think
meant for you
I
not to
think
see it yet.
I think that they just wanted to ground her a little bit because the one thing that they did in this that they didn't do in the animated was they played her against Ozai. We got to see and hear a lot more from Ozai than we ever did in the animated.
Exactly.
And
But he's another one.
that whole scene where Ozai was checking her shit and when she's like, yeah, well, King Admiral Zhao found it. He said, no, your brother found it. He said, stop trying to give me platitudes and all that bullshit. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
He said, I know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
when Ty Lee and Mai told her, like, you know that you're the best. He is playing y'all two against each other or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And she's like,
I
yeah,
love that scene.
that's when she decided to let go. And she's like, and he pushed her again. She's like, okay, I ain't gonna give you a chance like my brother
like,
did.
I ain't Zuko.
She's like, you come get some of this lightning,
Yeah,
baby.
you make a mistake with me, I'll burn your ass up. I love that scene when she fights him. And then she does
shish kebab your ass.
Yeah, the lighting was nice.
I think they did a really good build up of what these characters need to be in the future seasons. Like we got more of her, Azula. We got less Aang, less Katara, less anything else. If we had more of her, less Zuko. And we need to establish them more right now.
But not only that, we don't have to have
like
a long time building them up in season 2 when they're not brand new characters and now we gotta give you you've seen them before. You already know she's crazy. Let's go.
But I also think that there's a reason that they did that in season 1 for you to fall in love and get to know Aang and Katara and Sokka. And I think that introducing these characters this early, I lost some of that character building of Katara, Aang, and Sokka for me. Like I needed less of Azula and also Zuko to an extent because you add in all these extra moments. This is Zuko's season. This is the season where we have only Zuko to learn who he is, to learn what are his boundaries and barriers and where has he come from. And though I think they still did a decent job of like explaining that and bringing in how he ended up on his journey, like him, what he had to do to be banished. Yes, they introduced all those facts and things like that, but there's still some buildup. Like we're not supposed to find out he's the masked man until like later on. They just revealed it in the first clip. Like it's like, okay, that's him. He, here's the masked dude. I want everybody to know that's him. I just think that there's
that's the beauty of
and
20 episodes.
They're kind of telling the different stories. So
yeah, I'm just saying, I think that we lost some time with the main people for me in season 1 that I'm not saying don't introduce Azula. For me, I didn't need as much Azula right now. And there's the mystery of it, the mystery of her and the mystery of Ozai, because he is this looming character almost to the extent of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings. Like we saw his battle with Zuko, but like we didn't really know him. Now, don't get me wrong, I did love me some Daniel Day Kim and his he had all boom he didn't have. Okay, so I was there for that. I could have had
That's-
more.
That's
half
because he didn't have
naked
a.
scenes
That's
of
because he
David
didn't have a
Beckham.
shirt on.
I mean,
Exactly. He
has,
didn't
But-
never need a
but
shirt.
he is
didn't
hot.
never need a
is-
shirt.
He is
Okay?
hot, literally. So
I think we got just enough of them because we have yet to see Ozai's real power. And I think we're not supposed to see that. We see how powerful he is now. We think that's it. No, he's fucking Vegeta. And he's Vegeta power. So we're gonna see him by season 3 where he can actually battle Aang, where Aang has gotten all the powers of all the Avatar, and Ozai's like, I'm still gonna bring it to you. You have no idea to face me. And I think they set Zuko up perfectly to be Aang's teacher mid season 2.
I think
I think they
that
set it up perfectly. Like episode 2 or 3 of the next season, he's probably going to be Aang's teacher
who?
because they have Zuko. They're probably going to have him set up
Hell
that way.
no.
They're gonna have
Mm-mm.
they have Toph come in.
No.
Toph is going to come in, and she'll
Mm-mm.
probably come in episode 1. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Zuko still gotta go through his whole arc. He's still
Yeah,
gonna
he
be
hasn't had it.
he's still gonna be doing the same shit that they did in book
That's
2.
probably true. That's probably
Yeah.
true. That's probably
Now,
true.
now you're probably right for his redemption at the end of or where he
Of
goes at the end of
season
season
two.
2 and
Yeah.
season 3.
Season
If we
3,
make it
yeah.
to a season 3, then yeah. But I think the one
They're
thing that
booked
was
for all
cool,
3 seasons.
I think that what was cool about Ozai was you saw that Ozai was a little bit more cunning and he was a thinker, a strategist, where we got that vision of Sozin that we didn't really get too much except when when Roku went into his story, that Sozin was out of his goddamn trees. Sozin was crazy as shit.
Yeah.
And his power level when the comet came through was off 10. Like he was on something else. He just walking around barbecuing people's ass. Ozai may even be more powerful than Sozin. But we saw the way that he was wielding his power, and I thought that was interesting to show.
Mm-hmm. It takes more to be the Fire Lord than just to be really strong with fire.
Right. And I thought him as a strategist, that's what we were seeing.
Yeah.
We're establishing his cunning, his ability as a strategist, and then we're going to build each season with him culminating.
He's truly the Godfather.
Well, not only that though. So you got that whole first season, that whole first scene where dude gets caught, he sacrificed himself. He's like, I just had to let the Earth Nation know that you was coming. He's like, good. I want you to let them know. He said, because they're not the real target. And he's like, oh shit. And the thing is, Ozai did the exact same thing. He did it in a different way, but he did the exact same thing. And not only that, you got to remember that Sozin is Ozai's grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
They are several generations removed. Azulan is Ozai's father, him and Iroh's father, and that's who Azula's named after. So all that they gave us about Azulan is that he was looking for the airbender and never found him. We don't know anything about what kind of Fire Lord he was, but Ozai seems to take right after Sozin, and he's trying to groom Zuko to be the same thing. He's kind of sick of Zuko's ass because he thinks Zuko takes after his mother.
Yeah, but I did see when he was getting ready to burn Zuko's face, there was moments in his eyes where there was some slight compassion. It was small, it's very small, but it was just little flickers in his eyes. That's all.
Yeah, I thought he felt sorry for Zuko.
I
never thought that.
I didn't think he felt sorry. I thought that there was a moment when Zuko had him.
Yeah.
He had him.
Yeah.
And if he had finished him, he would have had Zuko would have had Ozai's respect.
Yeah.
And when he didn't finish him, when he didn't go in for at least maybe not a kill, but actually to finish the fight, I think Ozai was pissed. Yeah. He was like, "You what?"
I agree.
You know what I mean? It was like, then it was like, I'm doing this for you. It was that moment of I'm teaching you right now. I'm gonna fuck you up, so I'm teaching you.
I don't mean sorry like he felt sorry, but I mean petty. He was like, you didn't do what you needed to do. Yeah. In order for you to get this spot, you have to kill me.
Yeah. And that's why
Yeah.
Have to
he was
kill me.
Azula. If he would have tried that with Azula,
And
it would have been
Azula
a
shot the
whole
lightning. It was like, we
different
can do
consequence.
this.
Because
Yeah.
she
And
was
she
like, if
had the
I
gall to
catch you
kill her
slipping, Dad,
father.
Yeah.
I'm taking you out.
I'm taking you
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I
I
do.
think I think in that look of pity, I think that Ozai's look at Zuko was more like, I can't believe that you my son, because I can't believe I didn't produce this weak ass progeny. Like, you know, uh,
See, I didn't get
your
Azula
sister
would,
your sister got it, but she
I
ain't gonna
didn't
be
get
the
that
one.
Azula would have finished him. I got that
I got
Azula
it
was showing him
100%.
I
what.
think she would have.
Can I finish my statement?
Go ahead.
I thought that she would have. I thought that she was showing him, I'm not Zuko. You want to
Yeah.
come? You want to play? Let's do it. But
guess-
not that she would ever like I didn't get that she would do that.
I guess
Even though I know she should have in the animated series, Azula absolutely would have. But this Azula, no, I didn't get that.
yeah, I got it completely.
Yeah, I
But
got
it's
it.
fine.
Yeah,
I got it. And not only that, when Zula's like, I'm ready, let's go. He didn't step up. He just no, he didn't
Yeah,
he didn't
she
call
was
he didn't call
ready.
no he didn't call
Absolutely.
no Agni Kai on her ass. Said, no,
Yeah.
we good.
Yeah.
In
We
the
good.
chat, Mark
He put her
said,
on a mission.
imagine Sokka trying to talk to Zuko about daddy issues.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna go back to Boomy because I was looking at the character design. Boomy is jacked in the animated show. He's
Oh,
got
God, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
again, animated. So I mean,
Yeah, but like also
Yeah.
the makeup on Boomy and the live action is weird because it's clearly just de-aged
Yeah,
or the aged makeup and it just doesn't match this.
and maybe they didn't want him to be too damn jacked since he is what 117 years old.
116.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I
It's
guess.
very, very much like his wardrobe, like I don't know, it's very interesting like stylization within the Earth tribe, which was kind of a mixture of like Indo-Chinese.
Mhm.
But
You
yeah.
know, there was one thing about Zuko, the thing that really put me in a place of like, he's not my Zuko. Like I like the work that the actor is doing. I think he's doing a solid job. But in terms of something that was missing for me was Zuko, and I don't necessarily just think that it was the anime, like the voice actor's voice. It was his performance 100%. And it matched along with the animated character. But I think there was a confident hubris that was missing from the live action actor. And what I mean by that is Zuko had to double down. He had to believe that he is going to do this. And it's something that he literally needed to the point that there was like visceral hatred. Like, I am going to do this. And the fact that I need to find him, there was this resolve, this fierce resolve that the actor he was more sad and like heartbroken. And I could see that, and that bothered me. Now I understand that there's a live action versus animated series, but I saw more of this kid's pain as Zuko than I should have for me.
I guess like part of me, even though I've only watched the first 3 episodes of like and maybe out of context things where I saw parts of like Rage Zuko, but Zuko for me when at the moments I'd seen him in the animated show versus this, I actually preferred the more painful side compared to the kind of like straight up I'm mad, I'm angry because kind of whatever. But I think the way Zuko popped up in some sequences kind of reminded me of Team Rocket, where he's like, "All right, I'm back to get the Avatar." That moment, so like, please go away, Zuko. But
Like Rocket Raccoon? Like what do you mean?
Rocket
Like
from
Rocket?
Team
from-
Rocket.
from Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
One
Yeah.
animated version, though, I felt like Zuko was the antagonist.
Yeah.
We didn't know all of these layers about him. So we saw him as the person that was in conflict with the protagonist of the series. I
Yeah.
thought in the live action version, though, they made a decision to not show him as the complete antagonist. He was layered and more complicated. And I think that kind of came across on the screen because there was moments where I felt like I don't like him. Then there was moments I was like, well, okay. And we got more. I felt we got more of his story. Like for me, the episode when we find out why he was banished, I thought that was amazing. Where he saved the 41 crew.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Thought
good.
that was a complete game changer. And from there, I couldn't see him anymore as a complete antagonist. So I thought we got
Right.
more from Zuko.
That's the
Yeah.
turnaround. That's his turning point in the season, and I get that. But in order to have a turning point, you have to start from a different place. That's all I'm saying. And he was one note for me. He was the same note the entire time for me. And to your point, like that's why I said, like, to introduce Ozai and Azula right now, you have three. You don't even know who your antagonist is. They're all the antagonists, and I think you need you need Zuko to be that antagonist. So then when we get to book 3 to see where these two people have come to the point that Aang is trusting Zuko to be his teacher. Spoiler alert, Catherine. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know he turns good.
Okay.
I saw it out of
To
context.
be his
so.
to be his master and train him to be a firebender, you have to come from somewhere. And I think they truncated the arc that ultimately these two people are going to have together.
And I get that, but
I think they
so.
established Ozai as the
nah,
antagonist.
Zhao was the
Yeah,
antagonist.
Zhao was the antagonist that came
season
in over
for me.
Ozai. Yeah,
Because
he
I
came in
hate
to
That's
show
another
that.
antagonist. There's
Yeah.
the fourth antagonist.
I don't look at it as Azula as an antagonist. I think that she's just right now she's just the person trying to get her father's favor, and Zulu's the same thing, and they're racing at the same thing. I think their arc is more tied together than his arc chasing the Avatar right now.
Yeah,
Like
I think
I'm trying to beat my sister now. Now in the season 2 is gonna be I'm trying to beat my sister and bring this guy back. Fuck her. I'm gonna bring her back to dad, and then I'm gonna put her in her place. And I think that's what season 2 may be like. And I think she's gonna be like, fuck him. I'm gonna bring back the Avatar and I'm gonna put him in his place.
Yeah, that's the way I got it. I thought
Yeah.
Azula's story, at least for this season,
And Aang
was
is
more
just
tied
there,
to
just being
Zuko's
Aang.
story than it was Aang. And Zuko was more tied to Aang. Yeah, I didn't think she was necessarily an antagonist. She was just a character that we're going to set up for season 2. That was just
Yeah.
that's it.
Because Jai, and talk about General Jai, I think that character, that actor, makes me hate him in more films than anybody else. I think I hate him in more like I hate this guy. He sold it. He sold me on him. He sold me on him, especially at the end there, at the last scene when he was talking about killing the moon, what was it say? The moon
Slayer.
moon
yeah.
slayer. Yeah, I was like,
it's lost his damn
damn.
mind.
Damn, he
You
was
want
like,
to
when
kill
I
the
become
moon?
Fire Lord, turn to the Fire Lord's brother and said, when I become Fire Lord, you can serve under me.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with that scene too.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
And the thing about that is compared to the animated, Zhao pretty much plays it up the same, but in the live action, he comes off a lot more calculated and a lot more cunning than he ever was in the animated. Like in the animated, it almost seemed like maybe that's why he was whatever he was, a captain or a commander out here of no name, because he never kind of lucked into some shit about finding Zuko and Zuko being around him at the same time, so he used it to his advantage. He was far more calculated when he wrote the letter and told a whole different story about Zuko being down there, and Azula used that to her advantage and stuff, and she became his secret ally. That was way different and also way better. So I kind of saw Zuko the same way that I saw him in season 1 of the animated. He was pretty much the same. He had some more layers, but he's pretty much the same. Ozai was Ozai, Azula was Azula. The biggest change to me was, because Zuko's still running around he's trying to save the moon and all type of shit. Here comes Zuko. I don't give a shit about none of that. You gonna go with me to my daddy. I need to prove my shit. Like, if you'll sit the hell down, boy, don't capture me right now. I gotta go save them. Hidden by the spirit monster got them. I don't care about none of that. Zuko was the same as he was in season 1. Zhao was what was different. Zhao's whole approach to that shit was what made it feel different. Because the way that he carried on and did shit was way more visceral than it was in the animated.
I never thought about it like that because I barely remember Zhao. I thought everything he did was happenstance, but
Mm-hmm.
him being calculated. No, he had the best line though when he looked at Zuko and said, the Fire Lord's favorite didn't have a mark on his face. Like your daddy marked you to let you know
Mhm.
you're not there no more.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Like here's why he spared you. He marked you on purpose. It's like that's the Scarlet Letter, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that changes the whole entire story for me. I was
He
thinking about that. I was like,
he
man,
had a whole lot of hot lines when he
he
was talking
did.
to
He
when he
was
was talking to Arrow, and he said, "Well, yeah,
Moonslayer.
wait, no, but
Yeah.
when he's but no, before that, when he said, well, I don't have a lot of experience and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? But then again, I don't have a lot of experience with failure either, you know,
Yeah,
like you
Or
now,
like
like you.
running away. Yeah, like you. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you.
It's good.
Yeah, he did.
So for
He
this
did.
season, to me, that was he was the major antagonist. All right. Y'all got anything else you want to talk about?
Um, hmm.
Cool. All right. So let's rewrite this thing. Let's start with you, Rikai. How you gonna rewrite it?
You know, I definitely can see the flaws in this, and I tried to make sure that I was watching it. I wasn't caught up in the moment, and I really kind of waffled back and forth between Full Meal because I thought it was still super solid. But when I really got to thinking about it, and really it was catalyst by the conversation I had with my daughter, because she's not finished yet. She was like episode 5. So when I got to talking about her and not trying to give her any spoilers, but I was like, episode 6 and 7 and 8, what I remember about this, the reason I gave it a binge worthy is because how this series made me feel.
Mhm.
Like I have no problem talking about this series to anybody, the haters, the purists included. I have no problem talking about this, advocating for it, suggesting it to people. And while a Full Meal is a good series, and I tell people, yeah, that's good. Yeah, you should watch that. That wasn't a level. I was on a level above that. So that's why I gave this a binge worthy. It may not be perfect. It's not even close to perfect. And it's not the nostalgia, and it's not the anime series, because I think the anime series is one of the top tier, one of the best anime series of all time. But this, for them to try to do something different, I felt like they stuck the landing and they did something great. Can it be better? Absolutely. And I hope that in season 2 they've learned from where they kind of screwed up in this one and they make it better. So that's why I gave it a binge worthy.
Are you sticking with the
I'm sticking with it. Yeah.
All right. Chuck, what about you?
Um, I think I'm gonna come up. I think I'm gonna come into a binge worthy. One of the reasons I put it down as a full meal was because the source material was so great, right? And I said if only one of them had to be a binge worthy, the other one has to be a full meal. And I think the source material was perfect. It was a children's story. I knew who the audience was. And what made it interesting was Brian and Michael had no idea who their audience was. They were looming being canceled every season in Nickelodeon because the show was too young on the older kid version of the network. And then it got too old for the younger kids. And the show grew and found its footing. And, and it told an amazing story. And this, I feel like this is definitely targeting uh, uh, young adults and older teens and adults, and it showed that way. And so, but I think after this review and thinking about the characters like Zhao, even the minor characters is what helped bring it up for me, and like did they properly set them up for season 2? And I was thinking that they really did. They said they made anybody that had no familiarity to this franchise, if they came in and watched this, they'll be waiting for a season 2. And so I think I moved it up to a binge worthy because
Okay.
of that.
All right. It's Catherine. What about you, ma'am? How are you going to re-rate it?
I'm gonna still keep it at a mini meal. I enjoyed watching it. I think it's mostly just how some of the like acting for some of the characters felt a bit stiff,
Mhm.
and I think could have felt less like they were reading a script and more like bringing not all the actors, like I forgot that villain's name. The main villain was great. Some of the older actors acting was great. I just think it was just some of the acting um in in some of the sequences that felt a bit stiff for me that made it to a mini meal, but I definitely would recommend people watch it if and for something to watch as well as if they were interested in Avatar. That's awesome. But yeah, I'd keep it a mini meal just because of some of the just some of like the sequences and just kind of stiff in some areas.
Okay.
So
All right. That is fair. No problem. Um, I did not find a miss with this series. I thought the casting was absolutely stellar. I thought the costuming was absolutely stellar. I thought they built a fun world for us to be in visually. And I thought for a show that started off about kids and starred all kids, we had some decent acting here. The scene with Aang and Zuko after the blue mask when they were talking to each other, I thought that was dope. I thought Zuko with him saving the crew. I thought that was really cool. And Katara, we didn't talk enough about Katara for me. With that, when we first met Katara, she could barely lift water, out of the sea. Man, she gave Zuko all the smoke and would have gave him even more smoke if old Zhao hadn't literally destroyed the moon. So I thought this was super fun, man. It had some problems, but right, it was enough for me to be captivated. It was enough for me to recommend it to somebody else. So I'm sticking strong with my original one, and I'm gonna give it a full binge out. Uh Courtney, bring us on home.
Um, so I was always on the fence with my feelings about the series. It didn't really have anything to do with like nostalgia, other than the fact that nostalgia is what it made me feel to be watching these characters again, is what had me leaning into giving it a full meal. But I gotta say, for me, I talked myself into like my own feelings, and I gotta say, I'm going down to a mini meal because I struggle with the fact that there were four villains, and I didn't even realize that until like we started talking about all the different people that were like thrown in. There was just so much information packed into this one season, and I needed less. Honestly, I needed to for them to root it in the series. And as much as I did enjoy a lot of the series, it was enough for me to definitely look forward to a season two. Um, but I needed it to be grounded in what is my story and who am I focused on, because as much to your point, like Katara was great, and her and Aang and Sokka, though I think they did a solid job building that relationship, I would have liked to have seen the build of like the hero, and then the like them focusing more on Zuko. And yet I didn't get that. There was a lot more because you had Daniel Day Kim and you wanted to bring him in. You had the actor who I can't think of his name who played Zhao, but
Ken
he
Loon.
is a well-known actor.
Ken Loon.
Ken Loon, yeah, him as well. And like it was a whole lot of, and yeah. So I talked myself into a mini meal.
A mini meal. All right. So we still stuck at the same point. Chuck and I went up, Courtney went down, so it's a 4.2, and that gives it a solid 4 mil. All right, good
okay.
stuff. Captain, you got anything to say before we head out, man?
Um, I hope everyone has a good Wednesday and yeah. So,
Cool. Chuck, what about you? Got anything to say before we head out?
Follow the Geekish Network. Stay tuned with us. We have new shows coming in the wake. And if you want to find me anywhere, it's at Charles Babb on everything, all the socials.
All right. Courtney, you got anything to say before we head out?
No, geek out and good night.
All right. Rakai, you got anything to say before we head out, sir?
I just want to say thank you to Mark in the comments online. Thank you for rolling with us. Thank you for watching live while we're doing this. For everyone who watches this, please continue to like, comment, share, and most definitely to subscribe to the Geekers Network. We got some more great stuff coming. So what are we watching next week?
I think we're watching House of Ninjas.
Okay, another Netflix show. All right, I'm for it.
Oh, shouts out to Rodney. He is our technical director. He does all the switches and the changes and everything. He is the best in the business. Shouts out to Digital Click for making our marketing and promotional needs. They create the actual like binge out symbols and everything in the promotional material. So if your company is ever in need of marketing and promotional assistance, consider Digital Click. Shouts out to the Geekish Network, right? We are the premier BIPOC network, right? Black Indigenous people of color. And we do amazing things. We've got dope people in front of the camera, behind the camera, and really just all around. So support us. Like us on YouTube. We're also on Twitch, Facebook as well. Share us with your friends. Blow our spot up because we do this for people who look like you. So we will be back next week. Same geek time, same geek channel. Talk to you guys later. Peace.